This is one of the biggest reasons you struggle to lose weight at the time of menopause, and no one is talking about this. Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50 get in amazing shape. It feels like a gargantuan effort, doesn't it, to even lose body fat, let alone get in amazing shape. I know I went through the experience of trying as hard as I could. I would get really down about it. I didn't like looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't like the way my images looked on photos on vacation, and I didn't want to wear swimwear because try as I might, I really struggled to lose weight, and I didn't understand this one thing that I'm going to talk about today that was actually stopping me. I thought it was actually kind of my fault. Maybe I wasn't working out hard enough. Maybe, my diet was all wrong, that kind of thing. And yes, those things are really important. But the one thing that's happening to our bodies, and this happens to most of us, is we're going to experience some kind of inflammation. And that's what's stopping us from losing body fat. It's actually making us gain body fat. I'm going to go into in this video what inflammation is, why is it a problem, and what we can do about it. That's the most important thing of all, isn't it? What we can do about it. So watch right until the end, because I'm going to tell you what we can do about it, and I'm going to tell you how you can actually identify if you've got it. And most women at this stage in life, they're going to have some kind of inflammation in their bodies. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is when your body recognizes harmful or a foreign substance in your body and starts to kind of fight against it, and it's trying to actually heal yourself, your body, and that causes inflammation. That is what inflammation is. So why is this a particular problem when you reach over the age of 40? Well, what inflammation in your body, a lot of the time, it's actually going to stop you from losing body fat, losing weight. It's going to prevent you from doing that if you're experiencing all sorts of inflammation in your body. And we're going to go into how you can kind of tell whether you've got inflammation. You're also going to find that your menopause symptoms are much more pronounced, or you may be experiencing more menopause symptoms because you've got inflammation in your body. So like the tiredness, the night sweats, the hot flashes, all those kinds of things can be much more severe if you've got inflammation in your body. Inflammation may actually result in you experiencing more fatigue, and you can be fatigued anyway when you're going through menopause, but if you're more fatigued, then it's going to be a whole lot worse. And you may find the obvious one really is it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. So you're either not going to be very well, you're going to be sore, and we're going to go into some of the signs of how you can actually tell you've got inflammation. You might find your digestion is off. That is like a clear sign of inflammation. You may find that you're experiencing some sort of pain, maybe pain in your joints. Maybe you've got like skin rashes. Maybe you're like having puffing up, swelling, or kind of water retention. Or you're sort of experiencing some kind of heat on areas of your body. Those are not the only ones, but they're all signs of inflammation. So what's causing inflammation? What's causing inflammation when you're over 40 and around at the time of menopause is actually your hormones. So it can be hormones like your sex hormones. So that's your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone. It can be hormones like cortisol. It can be hormones that control your hunger, like ghrelin and leptin, and it can be hormones like insulin, which I'm going to go into in a minute. So those hormones that are changing can all cause inflammation, and estrogen in particular actually causes, when your body's trying to produce more estrogen, it actually causes more fat storage around your midsection. Lack of sleep can cause an enormous amount of inflammation. Insulin resistance, this is a big problem for women over 40, and we can find at this stage in life we're actually getting more insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? Well, it's when your body can't control your blood sugar levels. So you're going to have more blood sugar, glucose spikes, and your body finds it harder to control those blood sugar levels. And that's going to result in inflammation and therefore real difficulty in losing body fat. The food and drink that we consume can cause inflammation in our bodies. And I'm going to go into this in a bit when we talk about what you can do about it. The chemicals that we put on our body, so not only ingesting chemicals, but the chemicals, substances we put on our bodies, or, our household substances, they can cause inflammation. So a typical one is like hay fever, isn't it? Hay fever, we're not eating it. It's stuff that we're like breathing in can cause us to have hay fever. And I know I experienced hay fever much later on in life. It started in my 40s and I didn't experience it before. And hay fever is kind of inflammation, isn't it? And the final big one is stress. Stress can cause inflammation, especially in menopausal women. So what can you do about it? Well, the good news is there is a lot of steps that you can take to reduce inflammation. It is going to mean making sacrifices in some things, but other things is quite easy to implement. So the first thing I would say is avoid too much high impact cardio. For many women, that is going to be a big problem. And, giving yourself enough rest days from exercise, 1 or 2 rest days per week, and not doing extended periods of impact cardio. That's going to be really important. I know when I was doing tons and tons of running, for example, firstly, I couldn't lose weight and I noticed a lot of water retention, inflammation, particularly in my lower legs around my body. So you want to be keeping that down to around about 30 minutes or less of impact cardio. You want to be taking in non-inflammatory foods. Really good foods for reducing inflammation are green tea, berries, 70% cocoa, dark chocolate in very small amounts, tomatoes, potentially green veggies as well are absolutely fantastic. And I've made a video all about that. I'm going to link it here and I'm going to link it in the description, but I've gone through the foods that are really great to eat when you're menopausal, when you're postmenopausal as well. The other area is actually fermented foods. So that's things like kimchi and sauerkraut. They are amazing, and you can have fermented drinks as well. And things like live cultured yogurts. You can have kefir as well. They're all fermented foods and they're going to be amazing for your gut health and therefore reducing inflammation. I talked earlier about insulin resistance. This is a key thing because it's really common in menopausal women. It's also common in the general population. And to reduce that, you don't want to cut out carbs altogether. But when we're thinking about carbs, the carbs to avoid are white flour and refined sugar. They're going to make insulin resistance worse. Sort of juice as well, fruit juice, the whole fruit is absolutely fine, But when we're talking about fruit juice, that actually gives you a huge blood sugar spike. It's not great if you're insulin resistant, and you can almost assume when you get to a certain stage in life, and that's what I do with myself and my clients, is you kind of assume that you are at least a bit insulin resistant. And for people that have got this a lot, they're going to have things like pre-diabetes or even type 2 diabetes. You want to cut out ultra processed foods. So that's foods that's had loads of processing by people. So when it reaches your plate, it's barely recognizable. And you kind of go on this thing, if it can walk, run, fly, swim, or it grows in the ground, it's good to eat. And then anything outside of that, you want to keep it down to a bare minimum. Now, of course, it's quite difficult with generally processed food, because processing means that it's had some kind of alteration by human beings. So, for example, whole grain bread bought in a bakery and freshly cooked, that is still processed. So what I'm talking about is ultra processed foods that you want to sort of avoid. So that's things like chicken nuggets, ultra processed burgers, those kinds of things. That's the food that you want to avoid. And many of the vegan products actually out there on the supermarket shelf, they're actually ultra processed foods. So you want to be avoiding those. Reducing your stress levels is key to all this, because as I said earlier, if you are highly stressed, it's going to cause inflammation in your body. And it's one of those things sometimes we don't recognize when we're really struggling for fat loss, for weight loss, and you're like really highly stressed. For some people, it's going to result in more fat storage. So you really need to get on top of that. If you know you're stressed and you're really struggling to lose weight, that is probably the reason why. And the other area, of course, is sleep. So it's putting in really good sleep hygiene strategies. It's really going to help with reducing inflammation in your body. And I know as I get older, I actually do really pay attention to my sleep. Getting good quality sleep as well as a good, 7 hours sleep. Actually, good quality sleep is really going to help. We talked about chemicals, so not just ingesting chemicals in our food, but actually in our body. So it can affect household products, your skincare, your bathroom, your hair products. Those are all things you can look at if you've got inflammation in your body, and go towards more natural products that don't have so many chemicals. I know that's quite difficult, but it's exchanging them, isn't it, bit by bit, and sort of going through some of the bathroom products. I know I do this. The things that I put next to my skin, I'm actually trying to go for more natural products. And the final thing I'm going to talk about, we are all individuals, and so for some of us, some things are going to cause more inflammation, and it could be you've developed food intolerances. So that's something that happened to me later on in life. I started to develop intolerances, and typical intolerances can be things like dairy and gluten, for example. They're usually the biggest culprits, but you've got to start paying attention to the food. What's causing real digestion issues when you eat it? And you may need to sort of start cutting them out, and by doing that, you're going to find that you reduce inflammation in your body. So let me know in the comments section whether you think you've had inflammation in your body or currently have inflammation, and maybe it's preventing you from getting to your goals, getting to your dream body because you've got inflammation. And I know when I was going on my own fat loss journey, no one was talking about this. It wasn't something that I really paid attention to, but I promise you, It's so important, just as important as nutrition and lifting weights that I always talk about. That's another thing you really need to explore.